For the 6th and 7th grade airplanes, what we're going to do to put the tissue paper on the wings, we're going to first need to use a template to trace the outline of the tissue paper, for the tissue paper. If you notice on the template, it says inside curved, outside flat. All that simply means is that the curved edge, you can look closely and see there's a curved edge on one end of the template and a straight flat edge on the other part of the template. We're going to trace it and cut it out just like it is here on the template for the wing covering. Because now, as we have finished with our wings, we no longer have a flat wing. If we turn it up on its side, you can see we have what's called a dihedral angle on the wings. So basically, when we glue the tissue paper on, the curved part of the tissue paper will go to the inside of the wing. Here's the inside right here. The flat part of the design or the tissue paper will go to the outside of the wing because it just goes straight across. So the first thing we'll have to do is we'll have to go ahead and trace the template onto a piece of tissue paper. So you get your colors from me, and we take your design, and if I place this right here in the middle, I'm going to have to make 1, 2, 3 cuts. To cut down on that, what we're going to do is just slide the template to a corner here, and now all I have to do is to trace the outline of 2 edges, so only 2 cuts will be necessary. When you're tracing on an object, be sure to have your pencil straight up and down when you're making your tracing. If you hold your pencil at an angle either outward or inward, the pencil is more likely to slip under the template or slip away from the template. Hold the pencil straight up and down and gently, carefully trace the outline, and keep your hand as close to the edge as possible, and that keeps the template from moving around on you. Once you have the 2 edges traced, then you get a pair of scissors and cut out the shape of the template you just traced. When you have this cut out, you'll notice you'll have some excess tissue paper left over. Don't throw this away, because we could use this for a patch later on if the tissue paper does not completely cover the center. So I'm going to take my extra tissue paper and set it aside. When you get ready to glue this onto the wings, once again I'm going to take the tissue paper and just lay it on top of my wing like this. That way I know I have it positioned correct. Here's the curved part of the tissue paper. This is the center of the wing. The flat part of the tissue paper on this end is even with the outside edge. And you probably hopefully have enough to hang over the edges so we can trim it off later. So with it resting on top of your wing, what you're going to do is the instructions tell us we're going to start with the front of the wing and we're going to work our way to the back. So lay your tissue paper down on top of the wing and then just flip it over right in front of the wing. Here's the curved edge. Here's the center of the wing, here's the flat edge, here's the outside of the wing. The front and the back of the wing are determined by the shape of the wing rib. As we know, the thicker part of the wing rib is the front part of the plane. This is where the air is going to travel over the wing first, and it's going to end up back here at the narrow end. So if you look at your instructions on step 6 will tell you the difference between the front and the back. So we're going to start with the front of the wing. So if I turn this again sideways, we're going to rest this right on top of the tissue paper, right on the edge like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my glue and apply the glue underneath the stick on the front of the wing. So I put this on by taking my glue from the glue lid and a paintbrush. I'm going to take the front of my wing again, and you can label it. You can label it, or at this point you should know the difference between the front and the back of the wing. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the glue and apply a thin coat of glue, kind of like what we did with the stabilizers. I'm going to put a thin coat of glue on the underside of that stick, which in this case, for 6th and 7th grade, it's a red stick that went all the way across the bottom from step 5. So we're going to go all the way across the bottom edge with a thin coat of glue. Leave the tissue paper on the foam board. So I'm putting this on a black background so you can see what I'm doing. You're going to have this on top of your plastic wrap on your foam board, okay? Now I have that entire edge covered. As you can see, I'm taking my brush and just going across the entire edge. Now all I have to do is turn it back over, so I'm looking on top of my wing again. Line it up with the very edge as close as possible, and before I set it down, I'm going to make sure I have enough tissue paper to cover each end. I'm going to lay it right on top like so, and you're going to hold it there, I would say for about a minute. Gently hold it with your fingertips. And then the next thing we're going to do, this is on the front of the wing now. The next thing you're going to do is you're going to apply the glue to the top of your black stick and on top of all three wing ribs. All three wing ribs and your black stick. So now, while that's resting on the table, be careful because now the other half of your wing is sticking up off of the table. So be careful not to bump it. I'm going to start out by putting a thin layer of glue across my black stick. And you kind of have to be a little quick with this before the glue sets up, because if you don't put enough glue on the piece of wood, then what's going to happen is the tissue paper won't stick and it's going to leave bubbles on there, okay? So now I'm going to go across the top of all three wing ribs. So I have my first one in the center. Take your brush, go across the entire edge to make sure you have enough glue on it and it's completely sealed up. Then the middle one, and then we'll finish up with the outside rib last. We don't need to put any glue on the back of this stick yet. So on top of the black stick and across all three wing ribs. Now that I have my glue applied, set your brush down, and here's where we're going to take it, and with 2 fingers, we're going to just take 2 fingers, and we're going to grab the tissue paper, kind of line it up with the center wing rib. This center wing rib, grasp the tissue paper, gently pull it back toward you, and pull it as tight as you can without tearing it, and then just press it down over the back of the center wing rib. Now, as you can see, we're getting a tight seal on here. So then take your finger and press back toward you. And now we have it sealed across this wing rib. Take your finger and pull gently back toward you again. And gently all the way across and gently on the wing rib. Now we've sealed up this section here. You can either continue using the same finger, or in my case, I'm going to switch fingers and I'm going to pull back this direction so that we're trying to form a tight seal across the top. Press outward, and now I can press outward with the tissue paper on the remaining 2 wing ribs, center and end. And what we have here is a nice tight seal across the center rib, across the black stick, and across all 3 wing ribs. All we have left to do is to wrap this back piece under the wing. So now gently turn your wing upside down, and what you want to do is you're going to have to support this. If you try to put glue with your wings like this with no support, you're probably going to snap it right in the center. So in this case, pick up your wings and apply your glue to the bottom red stick. And now we should be on the back of the wing because we started at the front. The question is, and this is in your instructions on step 10, what if you go in reverse? If you wrap the tissue paper on the back of the wing first to the front of the wing, what you're doing is actually wrapping it from the thin end, and you're going to end up with an air pocket right in the center of your wings. So it will not wrap around tight. We want to wrap it from the thick end, which is the front of the wing, back to the thin end. Now I've just applied that glue as I was talking. Now with your 2 fingertips, we're going to gently press and push this tissue paper all the way around. With your thumb, it's a pushing motion inward. Push this tissue paper inward, nice and tight with your 2 fingers. It's kind of like a pinching action. And push it all the way in so it wraps underneath. And just work your way from top to bottom to make sure it stays down. Now, as we turn it back over again, we have what's called an airfoil effect. The tissue paper is now glued underneath the front of the wing. wrapped nice and tight over the top and sealed up real tight underneath the bottom. So we turn it this way. As you can see, once again, we started from the thick end of the wing, the front, and we wrapped it around to the thin end. So now all I have left to do is to sand off the excess tissue paper. Going back to what we learned with the stabilizers, we're going to take your wing and again hold it about a 45-degree angle, and you're going to do this from the covered side. Turn this at a 45-degree angle, use the curve of the sandpaper and sand right along the edge of that wing rib gently until you see the tissue paper once again turn white. And when it turns white, that means it's being sheared off the edge of the wing rib. And this one takes just a little bit longer, but again, when I just gently pull on this, I have my tissue paper sanded off. Now you're going to notice as you continue to do this that black stick that we glued down the center of your wings is sticking out of the edge. We'll trim that off after all your sanding has been completed. So I'm going to work around the black stick just to get my sandpaper or tissue paper off. And as I gently pull on this, there's the black stick sticking out. We're going to have to trim that off later. And then as you can see, I have more sanding to do on the front and more sanding to do on the back. So basically when you're finished, we want a nice flat edge here. So what you're going to do to get the black stick off is you're going to turn your wings upside down, hold them at a 45-degree angle, and with the back of a pair of scissors, just trim off the ends of the black stick. When I grade your plane, I should be able to just see the outside of the wing rib, no sticks, no extra tissue paper, nice and flat. Repeat the same process for the other side of the wing. Remember, we're starting from the thick end, underneath the red stick. We're going to wrap it over the top and wrap it underneath the thin end of the red stick on the back. When you have both wings covered, the last thing you want to do is check the center. If you have a gap in the center here, okay, there's a gap where the tissue paper didn't meet, then what you're going to do is then go back and use that scrap piece that you had, measure and cut off a scrap piece the length of your wing cord from front to back, reapply glue on the center wing rib, set that piece on top, gently press it in place. We need to have the center section completely sealed before you can fly, otherwise it will produce drag. So once again, after you've covered the other half of your wings, if you have a gap down the middle, go ahead and use that extra piece of tissue paper you had to cover the center of the wing.